But just think for a moment about how something that none of us can even see with our eyes, something that a month ago none of us were worried about, that has now brought our nation and its economy to a screeching halt. I mean, we're meeting in homes this weekend instead of together because of this unseen virus. Even if the reality ends up not being as bad as some of the predictions, even if the best case scenario turns out, how quickly and how easily our whole nation has just shut down. It shows us just how fragile we actually are. You know, many say that regardless of what happens with the medical care and the future of this virus, the economic impacts of this shutdown are going to be staggering. You know, throughout Scripture, we see that God repeatedly uses things like this to wake people, to wake a whole generation up. For Jacob, the patriarch, God brought Jacob to his knees through a desperate fear that he had for his personal safety. With Moses found God through the loss of his career and the breakup of his family that he experienced when he was driven out of Egypt into the wilderness. For the mighty Syrian general Naaman, it was a health scare. He was diagnosed with leprosy that brought him to turn to God. For Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, it was the loss of essentially his job, his empire, and the loss of his sanity that brought him finally to his senses to understand who God was. In all of these cases, what we have is God putting somebody flat on their back, what we always love to say around the summit, so that they would finally be looking the right direction. God was saying, wake up. Do you realize how fragile your life is? How helpless you'll be if you stand unprepared for the judgment of God? Here's my question. Is God saying that to our nation now? Is God saying that to you? And let me ask you, what happens when you feel like there's some uncertainty in your future, or when you feel like you're afraid, or when your foundation gives way? What do you turn to tell yourself that everything is going to be okay? Maybe it's that you have a good family, and as long as you guys are together, you're going to be fine. Or maybe it's your own personal health, that you've always been strong and you always seem to get through things. Maybe it's the fact that you live in a country with great prosperity and state-of-the-art medical care and a strong national defense. So ultimately, whatever challenge we face, we can overcome. It's all, Jesus says, a faulty foundation. Everything outside of Christ ultimately will be sinking sand.